Hey everybody, this is Herschel from High School Top 200. This 2016 review of New Plymouth Boys High is brought to you by Fineline Barbers. Now what Vinnie and Fineline Barbers has done is that they've gone and teamed up with one of the major barbering suppliers here in New Zealand, and they are putting together an Aotearoa barber competition. This Aotearoa barber competition will be taking place next year, 2017, in September. And this is for all barbers around the country. You don't have to have a certificate, so there's nothing that's stopping you from being there. This Aotearoa barbering competition is for us as the public to see what talent we have there in our barbers. Look out for the Facebook page and also for the Instagram page, where barbers are going to start uploading their work, and so that we can see their work and actually get cut by these barbers when they're here in competition. So keep an eye out for that. It's Fineline Barbers, the Aotearoa Barber Competition, and it's going to have their Facebook page and their Instagram page up soon, and it's for all barbers around New Zealand. So I'll let your local barbers know, and we'll keep an eye out for that. September 2017 Aotearoa Barber Competition. This review of our New Plymouth Boys High is an up and down one. It's sort of a actually it's kind of what New Plymouth Boys has been since I've started doing this, where they've always had a real strong forward pack. Just like in 2013, they had a real strong forward pack, and then they had some firepower in the back line, but then for some reason it just didn't work out, and I don't really know why. I don't know why things like that don't work out for New Plymouth Boys in their backline, but the forwards always seems to be a real big strength, and then for some reason it just doesn't move well once it gets into the backline. But I thought New Plymouth Boys, judging from the roster that they had down, the returning players that they had coming back, the good coaching staff that they had, to me, I thought they should have been a top 10 team all the way through. I mean, they had Tom Florence, one of the best players in the country. They had Bradley Slater, one of the best players in the country. They had Kalen Brochure, who's one of the best players in the country. They had Brayton Northcote Hill, who was also a really underrated first five, who was just hit with injuries. They had Chad Peterson, they had Brody Lilly, they had just heaps of guys, Matt Guthrie, guys like that, and Michael McDonald. But for some reason it just didn't stick. Like, they just had games that were just off. I'm not too sure what it was. Manukura was one of their first games of the regular season when I started the rankings, and they won that 51-5. And then they went down to fielding, where they did have a few players sitting out, just nursing up some injuries and stuff like that, but they lost the fielding 12-14, which was a killer. Like, I just thought, wow, like early in the season. And that was the first time they dropped in the rankings on the second week. Then the Wanganui Collegiate game worked out to the way that I thought it was going to work out, with them running up a pretty big score. And then I didn't expect them to lose to Auckland Grammar. I thought they would win against Auckland Grammar, and they just, I don't know, something happened. They sort of fell apart a bit. They passed Silverstream, they passed Francis Douglas, and then the Hamilton boys game came, and they shocked everybody by beating Hamilton boys. They were on a roll, and then I thought, okay, it's going to stop here at Hamilton boys, and then they'll just carry on winning from then on. They were on a roll, and then they were on somewhat of a roll, actually, by beating Silverstream, by beating Francis Douglas, then coming to Hamilton, then beating Hamilton, and then Tauranga boys again picks off one of those games that they should have lost, and then they won. And so, like, that was another setback for them, which I thought that they won. You know, they lost 28-24. Tauranga Boys isn't a run-over team, but I still think that they should have beat them. Then they went on to win again against Palmy Boys, then Westlake, and then Napier Boys. Which, you know, if they had just had, you know, New Plymouth Boys did the thing that they needed to do. They beat a team that they should have lost to in Hamilton Boys, but then they lost a game that they should have won against Tauranga Boys. I mean, if that Tauranga Boys had ended up right, or the way that it should have, they should have won, they would have had a streak of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, an 8 winning streak until they got to Gisborne Boys. So, like, I was thinking, well, that to me is like something I don't really understand. And I mean, like, maybe the travel and stuff goes into it, but you know, I'd expect them to do a bit more than that. And even at the end of the year where they beat Rotorua Boys too, it's just another one. It's just like, well, in my mind, I was thinking, well, you guys probably should lose to Rotorua Boys, but then they end up winning by a point, which is great. I mean, that was great for them. I mean, and that's when you look at players like Bradley, Tom, and Caleb, and Lewis, you know, Matt and Brody and that, and think, well, why aren't these guys winning more games, or why aren't they winning either more convincingly as well? It's like, you know, it's just one of those things that I always think about when I think about New Plymouth Boys. It's just like, okay, they have a roster that, like they always do. They have a real big forward pack, real good forward pack, but then something goes wrong, something happens. Like this year, and I felt a bit sorry for Brody Lilly, who's usually the halfback, and then when Brayton went down, Brody had to switch to 10, which isn't an easy thing. It's pretty hard to adjust yourself from what you've learned for so many years to try and switch it up, like from following the ruck around, from following the ball around to running, looking over your shoulder, right and left all the time, so that once you hit the ruck, you're setting up a runner straight away, or you know, things like that. To pass, stand back, wait, pass, stand back, wait, pass, and then start looking around. Like that, to me, I think is a really big adjustment as well, because halfbacks to me are real sort of spark guys, where they're just always on edge and they're always trying to get to the ball as fast as they can, and then now they have to sit back in first five. So any player that goes from halfback to first five, I think is a hard adjustment, and he had to go through that kind of stuff. And so I thought he did pretty good. And you know, so like when that injury went down, you know, they had to learn to play as a different team, which they did pretty good at, I thought anyway. They're going to lose a lot of players from this year. I mean, Tom, one of the best players in the country, is going to be gone. Like most of the forward pack are actually going too. So that's something that I think they're going to have to look at next year. Chad is also leaving. Toby, Lewis, you know, basically everyone in the forward pack is going, and so they're going to have a really big rebuilding year in terms of how do we stay competitive in the Super 8, how do we get the boys ready, or do we rebuild and pick a whole bunch of year 11s and year 12s to give us a chance the next year under, and just have some year 13 sprinkled in. And like that's why I think they're going to have to, I personally would go for the rebuilding stage, and just finding some of these young guys who are in that team, and just start going from there. The backline looks pretty good. I mean, they still got Jamal coming back, Ware, who's such a good player. Jamal Happy, I think, is coming back as well. India is going to be back. Zane, who's one of my top guys that I'm looking at for next year, and him returning. Zane Firth, and so yeah, it's going to be pretty good. I mean, they have some. There's some other players coming up, like Leslie Adams and Carlos Tuala and guys like that. Paris will be up and Malachi will be in the forwards, hopefully. So yeah, I'll see what they have coming up. they might have. Yeah, I mean, if I was them, I'd have to rebuild. That would be my main thing, and so we're going to see what happens with them. Shout out to Daryl Lilly and what he's done for this team, and also to the boys who are going on. But look out for Tom Florence in the future, and also Bradley and Caleb and Lewis and some of these guys, because I think that they have that it factor to go on. So that's my review for New Plymouth Boys of 2016. Have a look for them next year and see what they got. Peace.